All right, everyone, welcome. It's Ken Hamik from the Gondry. Actually, not from the Gondry. We're doing Zoom again as we continue our period of being safe from this COVID period that we're in. It's really our distinct pleasure to welcome somebody I've wanted to have on this program, Community Conversations with Ken, for a long time, and that is the Ink People's Libby Maynard. Some people say kind of a legend, a hero, um, definitely a life changer for many different people I've talked with over the time I've been in Humboldt. So Libby, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here. I have a sticker that I used to have on my wall in my office in the Muni, and it used to say, "Legend in my own mind."
That's true. Most of us are. So we've started this program at the Gondry, as we do a lot of other programming, in keeping with our community focus. Steve Geeter and I, and Sasha and Lori and some other folks that were involved in getting the Gondry going over at 1580 Nursery Way in McKinleyville. But as you know, we met you through our nonprofit, where you helped us through the Dream Maker program that the Ink People started a few years ago, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. But again, we've always been about community, and you're such a key component of what makes things tick up here in the arts and the culture world, which is such a huge piece of who we are as a community. So again, welcome Libby Maynard from the Ink People. We have about an hour, and we've got some people that have submitted questions I'll be asking here. But if you could just start by saying a little bit about, and if you want, I can show this graphic of what is the Ink People, because I get this question a lot. It's kind of like the elephant, right? Everyone says, oh, it's a trunk, oh, it's the tail, it's a leg, and we, but basically it's a lot of different things. So if you want, I'll screen share this wonderful graphic that you put up, depicts all of the different things you do for the community. So there we go. Go ahead and just talk about that a second, if you could, Libby.
So for many, many years, we've, especially me, because I know too much, have had a problem talking about the Ink People and who we are and what we do in any kind of concise way. So Katie Texas, who was our artistic director for many years and currently has moved on to be the director of Scrap Humboldt, which is a great place for her. Anyway, she visualized and developed this, and it's just fabulous. So the Ink People, I like to think of it as like an iceberg where you only see 10% above the waterline and 90% is below. So I think of it as an artberg. And we started out because Brenda Tuxford and I were in the master's program at HSU in printmaking. And we were realizing that when we left the confines of the university, that we would be without a press, an etching press. We were both etchers. And that realization, one day after winter break, Brenda came into the print lab waving a bunch of papers and said, I have a great idea. Let's start an arts organization and get lots of grants. And so I said, wow, that's a great idea. And so we started on this journey. And it's one of those things, if anybody had told us how hard it was going to be, we never would have done it. But fortunately, nobody did that. So we learned as we went, and we started with a small group of printmakers. And after about 3 weeks, we figured out that printmaking was too esoteric for Humboldt County, and because there was, so few of us and so many more other artists. So we immediately opened up to be peer support for artists of any kind and every kind. And we have very broad range of definition for the arts, including arts and culture. And it's really, it's become, like Topsy, it grew. And it's just great. We had three basic principles that we started with. One of them was to be peer support for artists. Another was to educate the community about the value of the arts, because when we started, there was really very little recognition.
And that was 40
And
years ago.
40 years ago, yeah.
Wow.
And the third thing was to create jobs for artists in the arts, so they wouldn't have to, be wait people and do other things.
We're going to come back to that in this important time we're in, kind of an economic transition. It's going to be very difficult and has been difficult for a lot of people. And as we come through this as a community, we're trying to look for leaders like you to help us find our way. Businesses that have supported and hopefully will continue to support the arts and cultural events and projects in our community. I've also talked with a lot of people that really have, over those 40 years, has been life-changing. Some people started out maybe in the Mars program, which you could talk about in a second. Technology over 40 years, you've seen change. And just the evolution of the arts community here in Humboldt, I would imagine it's gone through a number of waves of changes. But in the meantime, I want to ask you, as far as the Ink people and even just in general, our community of artists here, how does it compare with other communities? Because I know that you don't do a lot of national work. You're definitely involved with some other organizations that look at the arts and culture from a different community lenses. How are we different than other parts of the country and even other parts of California?
So the Ink people itself is kind of an anomaly. It's unique in many ways, that certainly because people here have, kind of grown up with it and gotten used to it, they don't truly understand. Once sometime in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, I was trying to find 11 other organizations like ours in the country to submit a proposal to the Ford Foundation. And I came up with 5. So and we used to have a woman who is an arts consultant who lives in Chicago. She's national consultant, and she's a printmaker. And so when she would take her vacations, she would come and use the printmaking studio when we were in the Muni, because she said there just wasn't one like it anywhere else.
Wow. So as far as 2020 goes, let's just get into the immediate situation. You've been at this for 40 years. I know you're trying to re-envision what it's going to look like for the next 40 years, passing the baton, trying to corral all of the different funding and grant mechanisms, but local businesses and institutions that have supported the Ink people in the past. What are our current challenges, Libby? I mean, as artists, I noticed, because through Community Pride and Peace, we're on your email list, and almost 2 or 3 times a day sometimes, you are locating and advertising and communicating resources for artists and others in the community, jobs that are available. Again, you've taken the role as coordinating all of the different information out there and trying to give it to the folks as soon as they can to help them through this really difficult period where we're kind of sheltered in place. What are the real challenges, and what would you ask for? Like, I'm on the Arcata Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We're going through our own envisioning process, as well as other chambers here in the business community. And we also understand that, the arts are really an important component that draws tourists and that gives us personality up here. So what are the challenges, and what is the biggest advice that you could give people, resources you could point them to, that we need to be paying attention to right now?
So I just want to point out that the stuff I send out is like the best of the 30 to 40 emails I get from different sources every day about opportunities, and Ink People has always been kind of a information center, a place where people could contact us and ask a question, and we do our darndest to provide a good answer for it. As the thing about the arts is, in our society, we are basically premised by some of the first settlers that came to this country, this continent. And so it's basically kind of Puritan. And the arts are often looked at as trivial or extra. There's dancing and music and fun and beauty. It just those kinds of things aren't valued in the Puritan society, and that kind of underlies a very basic kind of thought process in the American society and economy. And the arts have so much to offer in the way of supportive health, supporting the economy, creating, we always talk about the quality of life, and that certainly is, one of the big parts. But the arts and artists now, they're finally doing scientific studies about like the value of music and healing. Having beautiful things to look at in your hospital room rather than, the TV with all the bad news. So there are lots of ways that what I'm trying to work with people and help them understand is that as we move into a new societal configuration, we should include the arts and artists in more proactive, embedded ways into basically the fabric of the society. There's a woman, Arlene Goldbard, who does cultural democracy and just is a marvelous writer and visionary. And she's written a couple books about what it would look like if we truly embedded artists in every aspect of society for the benefit of society. And it would also benefit artists because, they get paid and, get to do their thing in wonderful ways.
What are the names of those books?
No, I'm going to blank on them.
That's okay. So Arlene,
Goldb, as in boy, ARD.
Okay.
Yeah, she has a blog now that she's doing. She's kind of semi-retired from a lot of stuff, but she's definitely been a seminal voice. And the last thing she did before she retired was to create the U.S. Department of Arts and Culture.
Yeah.
It's not a federal agency by any means, but it's just a wonderful expression of the power of the arts, about thoughtful compassion, and how to really create an equity society.
One of the questions that I had in advance of this conversation we're having today was about the Dreammaker program. And the question was, sorry, give me just 1 second. Tell us more about the Dreammaker program, the demographics behind um, the program, and how many nonprofits does it serve, and the composition, the diversity of nonprofits that participate through the Dreammaker program?
So the Dreammaker program started because there was this group called Rural Art Services who served in that time the northern 17 counties, and they were helping artists develop marketing and learn how to be arts business people. Um, so I was on the board, and the California Arts Council wanted to give them money, but they were not a 501c3. So I said, oh, well, we can run it through the Yank people. And, and then, over the next few years, Brenda and I saw that so many people had these great ideas for projects they wanted to do. But the whole process of incorporating and then getting your federal status, took like 2 years. And by the time people had received their nonprofit status, their lives had taken them in other directions, or they were just exhausted from it. And so we wanted to create a vehicle that people could really quickly put together their projects, and then also with our support, giving them any training they asked for, helping them figure things out, and doing all the back office, all the bookkeeping, and getting them under our umbrella insurance policy, is to facilitate what they were doing. That eventually, with direction from the board, became the Dreammaker program. And we're still doing it today. We have over 111 projects. They're all community initiated. Some are more active than others. Right now, almost nobody's active. But some of them are very, embedded in the community. And the biggest challenge we've had with Dreammakers is getting them to say they're a Dreammaker program of the Yank people, because practically everybody in Humboldt County has been to something or been impacted by one of the Dreammakers over these years. And we've probably, seen 300 projects come and go. It's one of my, I grew up in Washington. I was born in Washington, D.C. My father joined the State Department, and we went to Southeast Asia. So I graduated from high school in Bangkok. I also lived in Laos. And one of the benefits of traveling when you're young is that you can really see how other people are, and how they're just like you and not like you, and how they express their own culture, and the beauty and the food and the music and everything that makes their cultures. So one of the early Dreammakers was the Hmong community of the North Coast, which was particularly meaningful to me because when I was in the 9th grade in Vientiane, our Sunday school teacher, who was an Air America pilot, would fly us up to Hmong villages on the weekends, and we would do volunteer projects in the villages. And we were so warmly welcomed, and just the people were so awesome. It was really great. And so then I found myself in the mid-90s working with these refugees from that war. And it was pretty amazing, because many of them had been born in the refugee camps in Thailand. And so I had been to their homeland, and they hadn't. And I had known their military heroes and their social heroes and stuff, because my father was involved in that. But yeah, so we have always had an openness to difference, to, no matter what kind it is, whether it's, gender difference or cultural difference or color difference. We're there, accepting everyone as they are, where they are. So we've worked a lot with Humboldt. The Ink People membership has always had a much higher percentage of people from different cultures
Mm.
than the general Humboldt County population, uh, which we're, very happy for, and happy to provide a place that is open and welcoming and that people trust. And that's one of the biggest things is trust. You have to build trust, and it takes time to build trust. So, we're
Now the
doing.
Hmong are among us in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
Here in Humboldt, many different folks from that community reside here.
yeah,
And I agree with you. I think that for somebody who is an immigrant or somebody who is not maybe cut from the usual cloth that we think of as America, um, it's art and cultural events are ways to express yourself, because maybe English isn't your first language, or maybe you look a little different or wear different clothes or such, but you still need to express, that heart and soul of what makes you who you are and your community who you are. And that those various influences, I think, really do help make the community grow, help the community grow, because it challenges us in our basic assumptions, what people, different looks, different sounds, different ways of perceiving art in a number of different ways. I think one of the things that it struck me, Libby, as a recent event that I attended at Del Arte a few months ago was you and John from Del Arte,
Michael,
Michael, um, and Jacqueline, and then Swan
yeah,
from your who is kind of involved, as were you, I think, in the Eureka Strategic Arts Plan. And one of the things that struck me as Scott Adair, who's our Director of Economic Development here in the county, who moderated that, was the impact on tourism. And some people have tried to put some metrics and numbers to that, but it is pretty significant. And I've talked with people that run hotels in Humboldt, and when people come here, they do. That's one of the things they look up besides restaurants. What's going on in the arts community? I'd like to know what's going on, what galleries are open. But it seems like we have such diversity of ways that people, tourists and the community can experience the art up here. But it struck me about the impact on tourism. Are there ways that we can better coordinate or organize the arts in Humboldt so we can make it even more impactful and maybe be a destination for people that are seeking art, especially native art, which is a very powerful piece of our legacy up here in Humboldt that we're not doing right now?
yeah. In one sense, we're lucky because our arts community largely is not extremely competitive, as it is in many other communities. So we work together, we talk to each other, but we haven't figured out how to market together yet. So I think that is kind of like the core that is needed before we can successfully, really be more organized in getting the word out to tourism agencies and the general public. We've done kind of scattershot individual things. There was a time when there was a big push to get the word about North Coast Open Studios, which is a Dreammaker project, out to like Sacramento and San Francisco and Redding and Los Angeles. Uh, and it was not that successful um, for a variety of reasons. Del Arte is this internationally renowned theater company. And until they got like this award from the Globe Theater in LA or San Diego, I'm not very good with that stuff. Until they got this big award, people in Humboldt County hadn't even paid attention to them because they just seemed to be homegrown. And what could be special about something that's homegrown? And so, even today, I think, a lot of people just take them for granted. A lot of people, don't know what to do with them because they don't understand it. But, and I think we're the same way. I know the Arcata Playhouse has been growing and becoming more and more involved in many, many aspects of getting the arts out into the community. We have an amazing theater community up here. The kinds of productions that are put on are, basically like off-Broadway quality. And, we've always had an amazing music scene. There was the years when a lot of the big blues players that we now look up as progenitors, we're in Humboldt County playing. You'd go down to the local bar and hear them, and so because we're like the place between San Francisco and Portland. So when they're traveling, they could stop here and do a gig and fill up the gas tank. And
I think Mama Janice even kept Taj Mahal in her house for a second.
They are great friends.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of, I think they knew each other in LA. And so it's really, an amazing arts community up here. And it has been even before the current era. I think, Peter Palmquist, who was a photographer and a photographic archivist, had started a collection of women photographers and women artists in Humboldt County. And he, I think that still resides at HSU. But it's the beauty of the area. And there's definitely an amazing energy that attracts people. And there's also that amazing energy that if you're not right or appreciating it the right way, it'll kick you out. So, Humboldt County has a way of winnowing.
It does. Yeah, it's I think of artistic collaborations up here that I've witnessed, the diversity of different art communities. One was Blue Ox production that was done at Del Arte, where it was a real project where they were asked to recreate a replica of Abraham Lincoln's funeral carriage, hearse, essentially on wheels, drawn by a horse in Springfield, Illinois. And so the time clock was ticking and they had to get this thing done. And the Blue Ox, of course, invited in a lot of the vets to heal and to have a safe space, to create a community to really support their own healing. But in the meantime, they made this amazing replica of Abraham Lincoln's hearse. And they didn't realize how impactful this was until they actually were invited, the folks that actually built it. And 250,000 people, I think, showed up crying, 6 deep sometimes along the road, dignitaries and other people on the anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's death. But the thing that struck me was, how could you make a play out of that? but they did it. And Del Arte delivered the performance, which was a musical, which was maybe half women in the cast. Awesome production, all original, very creative, and yet, that's the kind of thing that we are getting used to up here. That kind of talent set that we have. One of the things that I wanted to ask, again, because of the situation we're in, Libby, and it's challenging to businesses. Ours being one of them. We're doing pickups now and deliveries, and we still are staying open as an essential business. But with all these safety protocols, it's been a tough row. And as you said, a lot of the Dreammaker programs aren't even really engaged right now because they can't be because of the sheltering policies in place. So let me ask, from the Ink people's point of view, what do you need? What do you need from the community? I mean, at the Gondry this month, we pick a charity, a nonprofit that we really admire their work. The Ink people this month has been our charity of choice, our nonprofit of choice that people can donate to. That's a little bit, but there's Humboldt Area Foundation, there's national and state grants that are available to you. But in this time, what would you ask the community, business community? How can we help?
Wow. So thank you, first off, for making us your designee this month.
You're awesome.
Interestingly, we've been focusing on artists more specifically because we know that many of them just lost their total incomes, and probably I haven't really heard of anybody who's actually been able to get the unemployment. And there probably are some, I just haven't heard of them. But I would say by and large, they're not being picked up and supported in that way. So, initially we ran we got community donations, very generous, very quickly. And we set out $50 gift cards to artists who basically registered. We really didn't have any kind of screening. We just figured, you got to trust, and there's people are pretty honest, and of course in American society you hate to say that you're down and out, that you're not getting any money, so anybody who does really is hurting. So we did that, and recently we've been in talks with kind of one of the things about the Ink people is that we're not just focused on ourselves. We consider that the arts community and the whole community is our venue. So when we talk like to the Humboldt Area Foundation, I really keep a very broad view of, how can we help the whole arts community, not just our arts community, because we're all intertwined, and we're a community, we have to support each other. So, I know the Humboldt Area Foundation is working on possibly developing some funding for artists of all kinds. So there's that. We got lucky. We received a payroll protection program loan, which we fully expect to be forgiven. So that's kept us going as employees, staff in the institution. There were 3 Dreammakers that were terribly impacted. They were all children's theatrical groups. Two of them musical theatrical and one of them just regular theatrical. And they were about to have presentations. They had sold tickets. A couple of them had sold out houses. And then the stay-at-home order came and everything had to be refunded, except, of course, all the money that they put out to mount the productions. So that's Main Stage Youth Projects, All-Star Theater Arts, and Children's Theater of Humboldt. And they've, over the years, they've built this great reputation and following, and they do really wonderful work with the youth. There are really two dream makers that are still ongoing. Trajectory, who work with adult artists with disabilities, and English Express, which teaches English as a second language, and has English Express has transitioned very successfully to Zoom. And as the person in charge of the Zoom account, I can look at where people are coming from, and they're actually getting people from other countries now who are taking advantage of that. And Trajectory, does this awesome work with artists with disabilities to help them in their career trajectories and really to professionalize their efforts to sell and to make and sell art. And that's great that that's been supported and by the regional center and is still ongoing, because those people are isolated enough already.
Yeah.
So I know things are really hard for many businesses are shut down and may not reopen. It's well, like I said, mostly we're working on how to get businesses and government to value the arts in a different way and to employ the arts in a different way. So if you're listening and you're one of those people, I would say, think out of the box, think out of the sphere, it's whichever realm you're in, and think, you can contact me. I am mostly working from home by email, or if you call the office number, you'll get Monica Topping, who's our administrative director, because we're having the phone forwarded there. But email libby@inkpeople.org. I'm easy to reach that way, and that's probably the best way to discuss ideas and proposals. And I think society is really at a turning point. I've been watching CNN and watching cities burn up, and this is really with the COVID-19 and the impact on communities of poverty, and it's really a moment of truth for this country. That we have to recognize the incredible oppressive conditions that people of color live in in this country. All the microaggressions that just add up and add up and add up. And as white people, we do have a very special privilege, but we can use that privilege to help everyone in the community. I mean, that's a long time ago, I decided, I'm a really good white bureaucrat. I can write grants. I can work the system. And I decided to use that to help communities of color and different cultural traditions who, might not have as good English writing skills or, those kinds of things that I could work to help them uh, see, make their dreams come true.
Yeah, we say it so often as a motto, pay it forward. This is the time to pay it forward, if there ever was a time. I'm going to reiterate one more time for people listening. The inkpeople.org is a great site. Also has the Dreammaker program and participants there. There's a lot of tools and resources and art and artists that are involved with that. I would just strongly encourage everyone to get involved with the Ink People on whatever level you can. I showed a graphic earlier in our interview today, Libby. You can go back and look at that again to see all the different ways that the Ink People does an outreach in the community. And I'll come back to kind of the business art collaboration that we were talking about, because I think the mural project in Old Town Eureka has been very inspiring to local businesses down there, as well as to travelers that are coming through. I've heard so many people that have come up here to see us say, wow, Old Town Eureka is an amazing place. Would you have said that 5 years ago? I don't know. But I think art and the murals, I know you were a big part of that. CPP helped do the cleanup for one of the big events there. And there were, I don't know, 2,000 people? I can't remember the numbers.
I think
5,000. 5,000 just walking out of their cars in an alley to look at art out in the outdoor. So I think that's the kind of example of what we could do if we set our minds to it. And, with the pause, let's call it the economic pause that we're in right now, it's a kind way of putting it. There's also opportunity. And as a strategy person, I guess I always encourage people, this is a time we need the most creative people in our community to try to figure out a way out of this box. So again, I support everything you just said. Contact Libby. She's full of ideas. She's surrounded by a network of people that are full of ideas. And these collaborations can really get to be important as we try to figure our way out of this period that we're in right now. The other thing I was going to ask you, just because I'm looking at it, this art piece behind you, is there a story behind this?
This is a piece of Brian Tripp's artwork. He's a Karuk artist. It's called They All Went Dancing. Subtitle, War Was Always Dancing. And Brian and I have been friends for almost 40 years, maybe over 40 years. And I was very privileged through him to gain entree into the Native communities and their cultures, and the Ink People was a small part of their cultural revitalization, and we're very proud of that and happy to have been included. Yeah, it's basically, I think it is on paper. Actually, I reoriented my workspace, so I actually took a picture of it, and this is my Zoom background now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's tin foil, basically aluminum foil on cadmium red medium.
Okay.
His favorite thing. And Brian is an internationally renowned artist and has really influenced many local people and Native people to honor their culture and rediscover it in many ways. He was one of the people who helped get the ceremonial dances started again, and worked really hard, especially his brother Amos Tripp, who was a dance maker for the Karuk tribe. Um, anyway, you know, my my whole career here, you know, has truly. Uh, I consider myself very uh, blessed to have been involved in it, to be able to work with so many amazing people, to and then to see, you know, the outcome of that work. And just a quick story: the in 2012, I was given an award by Americans for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts,
Wow.
and uh, it was a big. I was on stage and everybody saw me, and then afterwards, about a dozen different people came up to me and said, you know, so and so who worked with you or who volunteered with you people, they moved to our community and they changed it. And that to me was better than the award, you know, to hear that we could have had that kind of positive influence. Yeah.
You know, I got to say that the people that, you know, I put the word out, direct message me, email me, questions for Libby. Most of the responses I got back were, I love Libby. No question. Just so I would, though, like to hone in on one part of that tree that you graphically talk about all the different ways that you support the community in the arts and culture. And that's the Mars Project. Because I have talked with some of the folks that have gone through there, and I guess maybe it's kind of a youth at risk, kind of an after school program that involves music, technology. If you could say a little bit about that, because I think, you know, as a futurist, I always talk about you say, I love this, the community is my palette, is one of your quotes. It's one of my favorite, because that's perfect. It describes you perfectly. I think that my palette is future generations, because that's what we're doing this all for. So could you talk a little bit about the Mars project and the
Yeah,
genesis and what it does?
yeah, I'm happy to. Um, in 1997, we, well, in 95, we started reaching out and doing some work in the schools. You know, Don Viev is an amazing artist, and she worked with doing mural projects and mask making and different things. And then in 97, we convened a gathering of all the youth service providers in Humboldt County that we could get to come. So we had people from, you know, Health and Human Services and from the schools and UIHS and you know, just all these people. And basically we said, who's not being served? And it was those kids who are, I'm not supposed to say kids, but it was those youth who are on the edge, about ready to, you know, or have fallen off the edge of society, who are really smart. They're bored in school. They're you know, anyway, the ones who I call seriously at risk. And so I said, okay, great, we'll serve them. So that's when we started the Mars Project. And in the beginning, the kids named it, and it was the Magic Action Reface Zone. Um, and unfortunately, it didn't go over well with funders. They kept saying, "What is reface? What does that mean?" You know. So it was reconfigured to be the Media and Arts Resource Zone. So it's always been focused on the youth, on their needs, where they are at that moment, and what they want to do. And which is not easy for the mentors, because they can't really give like sequential classes, you know, and because every kid is an individual and has to be worked with in a specific way. and but they got used to it. And over the years, we've had different mentors, and the two we've got right now are just awesome. Corey Goldman does the music part, and Jay Tillman does video and graphics, um, and so we've got basically it's free. It's after school drop in. There's no no requirements. Uh, Kids can just come in and check it out. They can, you know, bring their parents with them to check it out. And then, like there's one young man who came in and he kept, you know, he's very shy and he wouldn't talk to anybody. And his mother kicked him out and he was couch surfing. And but he just kept watching all these music videos. And so after a while, months, you know, one of the mentors kind of walked up to him and said, you know, you could do that. And today, he's, gosh, he's probably been with us 8 years. He's making beats and selling them professionally. I mean, he also
I've seen some of his work on Access Humboldt. Sometimes they air some things there.
possibly,
Sure.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so, you know, I've, over the years, it's been over 20 years now. So we've had a couple generations of kids who've grown up in the program. And, you know, to have somebody like after 10 years, you know, come in and say, hey, do you remember me? I was so lost and, you know, you guys helped me find myself. You know, I was ready to commit suicide and you helped me not, you know, so that kind of thing is, you know, makes any kind of challenge worth it.
To change or inspire a life. I don't know what other better calling there is than that. I'm just going to remind people again, the inkpeople.org, and you're also, Libby, located at 525 7th Street in Eureka.
Yeah, well, we're closed right now.
Yeah, but when you are open, you have a gallery there.
We do. Yeah, all that's been disrupted.
Yeah. But when
Yeah.
you do open back up again, it's a great space. I know you've had to move a few times, and whatever space you occupy, you always put a great shine on it. But that's where the Mars project is, and that's where things happen. I guess as we close here for this hour, I wish we could have gone a lot longer. I have a billion questions I still want to ask you. So maybe we'll do another one soon.
Sure.
But again, are there projects that are coming up, you know, online, Zoom, other ways? I know I see a lot of artists on Instagram in particular that are doing live art and music and other things to kind of keep people to share, you know, their art with people. Are there things that we should know about that are happening right now? And then the last thing, the big one I'm going to ask you is, what does the Ink People look like 40 years from now?
So for what's happening right now, I'm just going to say subscribe to the Ink Blotter.
Yeah.
Send an email to inkblotter@inkpeople.org, and we'll get you on it. And comes out about once a week. And you know, it's not just us. It's I mean, there's stuff in there from Trinity County and Shasta County and Mendocino and other places, LA. You know, so. But they're great things that, you know, could lift your spirits and, you know, make your heart sing. And there's some really wonderful, and then there's practical stuff too. So
The 40-year question. Is there what does the Ink People look like in 40 years? If we've succeeded, if you succeeded in your mission?
Yeah, no, no wonder I forgot it. Uh, so if we really succeed in 40 years, the arts will be uh, so embedded in society that like when Europeans first got to Bali, they said, "Show us your art." They went, "What's art?"
Mm,
It's part of life.
yeah.
They didn't even have a separate word for it, and that's what I'd like to see. If that we'll have artists and art uh, embedded in every aspect of the life that we live.
Libby, you're awesome. The Gondry, thanks you for joining us. Community Pride and Peace, thanks you for the Dream Maker program that's allowed us to serve the community in a number of different ways. But um, again, you are such a treasure to our community. Appreciate you taking time today and being with us and talk to us about art and culture in Humboldt.
Thank you, and thanks for all the great work that you've been doing in the community too.
Libby, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, guys. We'll post some other things, resources that we talked about in our conversation today, so that you can get a hold of Libby and the Ink people and actually show up and volunteer, even if it's during COVID. There's a lot of things we can still be doing right now.
Yeah,
Thanks so
we've
much,
been
Libby.
approved. We've been
Pardon?
approved to open,
Yeah,
but we're working things out, and we want to make sure our staff all feel comfortable to reopen.
absolutely. All the
I'm ready.
best. Have
Thanks,
a great afternoon, Libby.
and you too. Thank you.
Thanks.